trying to repair the lies that have been told. So I want to give everyone an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to start with a first question to my panelists. How do you identify yourself, and how do you think people identify you?
Regardless of where I go, regardless of where I stand, I've always been identified as black. I always identify myself as a black person, so I'm proud.
How do you think people identify you?
It's been confusing for people, even blacks, Americans or black from anywhere else, where I have to explain myself, where I'm two different cultures. So I speak Spanish and I speak a whole different language. People can never define me unless I explain to them that I'm a Garifuna and I've come from these two races uniting together, and I come from the time when the Spaniards were coming to bringing slaves to America, and I have to explain also the shipwreck that occurred near the island of St. Vincent, and that's how my ethnic group was created in the Americas. So I'm an American in the sense that my group was created here. Then obviously a mixture of Africans and totally went out of my head. But I always identify myself as a black person. That's pretty much it.
And you can share the mic with this question. Who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go next. So I identify myself as a black person, always have. I identify myself as a child of immigrants because really the culture I grew up in my house was a West African culture. So it was not the same as the culture that many of the black people around me were experiencing here. It wasn't the same background. I identify myself as a Christian. I grew up in church. I went to Catholic school. Then I went to church on Sunday. So it was like 6 days a week of church for my whole childhood. So that was a big thing for me. So I definitely identify myself that way. I know it sounds like a lot of church, it was. And and I identify myself as a husband and a father. That's a big part of who I am and how I see myself in the world. And some of those things people see about me and some of them don't. I think when I walk into a space these days, people pretty often see me as sort of the family bonds. They see that husband-father thing, but people really didn't identify me as black or white for a long time. For a lot of times when I would be interacting with other people in the black community, it would be like, why do you talk white? Why do you act like that? Why do you dress like that? Why do you listen to that music? And then on the flip side, in the white community, it would be like, people don't really see you because they just see your skin, right? So it's like, he's black and that's it. So really didn't feel like I had a fit for a long time. Really felt like people didn't see me, but I started to lean into that, and I started to really embrace this idea that there was complexity that people weren't gonna see in me when they walked into the room, and it wasn't necessary for them to see that. And I started to realize how I could open people. Woo. I started to realize how I could open people. It was like a little secret superpower because they didn't really know what to make of me when I opened my mouth. And you have this little moment of disconnect where they're like, wait a minute, I didn't know what was going on. And in that little moment, you can get real close to people. You can connect to something really vital when they're kind of off their square and they realize their assumptions are wrong.
I totally identify myself as a black female, American black female, the daughter of a sharecropper. Born and raised in the state of Georgia. Not having much, but not realizing that I had everything that I needed. That is the moment of truth, when you know who you are and whose you are. I am the same today, tomorrow, and the day after. I never change. This will never change. My hair may change, but this will never change. The color of my skin, the way I talk, the way I speak, the way I greet you will never change because that's who I am. I am a black female, a proud black female, coming from nothing but getting everything because I know who I am.
How do people see you, Ms. Brenda? Because that's important.
People see me as a woman, as a black female, and as a female, not a female that have lived with struggles, but a female that knows what she wants, knows how to get it, and knows her own self-worth. That's how folks see me.
For the, I guess, first few years of my life, I didn't know that black was a thing. As a child, I didn't even know that Dominican was a thing. I was just like happy-go-lucky. But then when I started identifying as a Latina first. When I was a teenager, I mean, between Public Enemy, KRS-One, The Cosby Show, like these were all part of our culture. I mean, I'm right around there with Lenny, born in '76. So we're at that encounter where cultures kind of are transitioning into like loss, basically. You know, we come from a time where our parents were holding on to survival rather than tradition and culture. We didn't have the luxury, like a lot of us didn't have the luxury of having parents in the home. So I didn't have a lot, but we get lucky because we hear stories. Now I identify myself as a human being. When the conversation comes up or the need be, I am very much Black woman. I am very much a Dominican woman. So there's a lot. I just figure I'd rather categorize myself or classify myself by what I have within, because I've never, even when I started coming into my own identity, I was always questioned by my Spanish friends. You're not Black. Why are you dressed like that? Why do you listen to that music? You put some bachata on or something. And in the African American Black world, I didn't fit in either because I was Dominican. So you're not Black. And your family doesn't come from slaves. I got that too. And within my own family, to experience racism that I had only known from people that had no like that, people that were unmelanated, I say. I didn't know that racism could exist within my own people until I saw it, until I started living it, until I perhaps unknowingly participated in it. Because how many times my mother told me, my grandmother, which was by your color, Yvette, her nickname was Prieta. My grandmother would look me dead in my eyes and tell me that I had to refine my race, which meant that I had to marry or bond lighter. The first time I ever had my hair relaxed by my mother was I was 5, and it wasn't no just for me. I mean, this stuff had layers. They had to mix it with a stick, and I think the stick lost parts of itself in the mix. You couldn't leave it on too long because you turned into another person, you know. And this was the lie that they used to use, and I used the word, you know, in many layers. This was the lie that they used to use.
So thank you all for your honesty. And, you know, when you put these stories together, is to understand that in the region alone, it's 200 million plus people of African descent. So the fact that we have this disconnect when we are the populated people of the world speaks to how that lie has been perpetrated and trickled so deeply into not only our story, our history, but our hearts, our soul, our minds, our hair. But the repair is also not just about how the oppressors or the colonizers see us. What you have all touched on is that the repair is how we see each other. And because of the land that we're standing on, I think it's important to start with the African American story. Because let's not get it twisted. A lot of us that are people of African descent that come as immigrants come here going, those people. And we don't understand that if it wasn't for the civil rights movement and the ability to find that freedom, none of us could have gotten on that plane, that boat, however we got here. So the healing first has to start with acknowledging the struggle of the African American community. That is why we are here. We didn't just show up here. We were able to get here because something was done for us to be seen. And it breaks my heart when I am in my community and we'll be like, you know those black people? You know how they behave, those black people? And I'll be like, if somebody comes through this door right now, ain't nobody know who's African American in this space. We all black. The only time they're going to figure out who's who is someone's accent comes out. And then you can tell, be like, oh, where you from? I thought you were just black. Please. I don't know what that means. Can someone tell me what that means? In Spanish and English, it still don't sound right. Ah, yo pensaba que tú eras negra. Yo todavía soy negra. Yo soy una negra que habla español. Tell me that. But I literally have been in spaces where people have been like, I thought you were black when I speak Spanish. And I thought you were black when I'm in Spanish spaces speaking English. Come on now. So, Miss Brenda, you are the African American on this panel. What is it that you want people to know about the African American community in Lynn, about the African American community that you sit with?
What I would like people to know and people to get from this today, that we all are one. No matter the shade of your skin tone, how you speak, the way you're dressed, we all are one. And in order for us to be able to move forward from this point, we have to understand that. We have to respect each other. Not use each other, but respect each other. To help each other. To talk to each other. To share with each other. To help each other along the way. In my community is all of you. I may not know your name, but I do see you. I do see you. I may not visit with you, but I do see you. I do feel you. We have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of lining that has been set, and sometimes we've set the lines ourselves. Those lines, we need to take that eraser and erase them, because we can't get to the next level unless we are helping someone, or someone has to help you. That's the community that I serve. That's the community that I want us to be. A community of helping one another. Not downing on one another, but helping each other.
And the downing is painful. The downing is invisible. It's almost making someone invisible. So I want folks to really sit in reflection. of when those moments have arrived when you haven't recognized someone's being. Because this is a denial of humanity, right? We're not just in denying an African, a Garifuna, a Liberian, an Afro-Dominican, is also denying your humanity and what that does to you. And then you got to pick yourself back up in that moment and be like, no, I'm real. I'm truth. So, Hermano Lenny, what is it to be a black man in Lynn?
What is it to be a black man in Lynn, Massachusetts? Well, I came to Lynn when I was 15 years old. And like Michelle was saying, in Honduras, we do not experience the right in your face racism or prejudice. We don't, it might be there, or I was too young to feel it, but I started feeling that here when I arrived to this country. The difference is in the segregation of white versus black. Blacks have to be here, whites are here, and I felt like I was in the middle because my heart was not raised with the fact that this people owe me something, or I owe something to this people. Being a black man in Lynn to me it's been good. I haven't had any problems. I haven't found any situations that I could tell you, whoa, it makes me feel sad to be here because people treat me a certain way. This is my community. I love it here. I've been here for 30 years, whether it's black, Asian. I felt like there was a community here, and it still exists to this time. So I always been here. Yeah.
So, Michelle, tu gente que son claritas no piensan que son negros. So you're breaking the mold today. Porque, we have this thing in Latin America that if you're dark-skinned, that means you're black. But if you're on the light side, that means you're not. And we create all these little, soy morena, soy trigueña. And that's all the diluted words that mean you black. And as I said recently in a presentation, the term Afro-Latina has become a very diluted way of not saying, I am black. So, Santo Domingo, and I want you to speak from your eye. Historically, what we don't talk about is we talk about the Haitian revolutions, and the first people of African descent to start the revolution was the Haitian. Well, hello, when that was happening, it was Española, and that included Dominicans. And the only thing that separates them right now is a street. Let me tell you, people, it literally is a street. But yet we talk about these two islands as if though there is no connection. Today, let's walk out of here saying that we are connected. And if you understand the colonizer's plan, there is a reason one side looks better than the other. Because Haitians are still paying for the fact that they kicked the white man's ass. Come on now. And they were paying France for their freedom. Do we know that? Do we know that? Haitians were paying France for liberating themselves because France lost money. So the Dominican story to me is the compass of where we're going and how far we need to go. Because if two places that close to each other cannot see each other, cannot connect with each other, and I'm not just speaking because Yvette Modestin has studied this, Yvette Modestin has researched this. I'm Yvette Modestin, and I walk in the streets of Santo Domingo, and I'm a Haitian, and I have heard it. So I'm not speaking of something removed from myself. And I have been in Haiti and have sat with Haitian students who are afraid to say they're Haitians. And I'm like, pick your head up. Freedom started there, even before it happened here. Do we know that after that revolution, the Haitian Declaration, Constitution was written that any African that landed in Haiti was free? So they didn't do that for themselves. That fight wasn't just about them. It was about all of us. Because we could go there and say we are free. So where's the disconnect, querida? You talked about the house. I mean, for some, it's not the disconnect. But what do you, as an Afro-Dominican, self-identifying as an Afro-Dominican, want to say to the Dominicans who do not self-identify?
Shame on you, shame on you. How are you going to deport somebody from one half of the island to the other? That doesn't even make sense. You using that example is a perfect point. I went to a protest in Boston with my child, who is 9 now. Those of you that know him know him. You know what he looked like. You have person after person after person after person getting up there talking about white devil, white bastard, white this, white that. My son was sad at the end of that protest because he thought he was that, because he only saw this. This is why I, as black as I am, advocate for us to identify as human beings. But we can't get there until we know who we are. Because I understand that there is not one color or thing that identifies me. I understand that now. All of us. I mean, there's no such thing as a pure race anymore. This is why I say this a lot about the one drop. Because we all there, you know. As long as we keep these lines, invisible, blurry, bold, doesn't matter. Children like my son are always going to feel out of place, you know, and it shouldn't be that way. As a Dominican, I've had this argument many a time, but I learned to not argue with the ignorant. Willful ignorance is not something that you can counter. They want to be that way. So leave them be. Move on to the next one that has enough open mind, soul, and spirit to hear what you got to say, to understand that we are all one. You know, as long as we see any type of difference, you know, the things that were done to our people, when I say our people, who do I speak of? Am I speaking of your ancestors, my ancestors, his? Whose am I speaking of? Does it really matter? We come from pain. We come from unnecessary hardship. We come from unnecessary abuse. So as necessary as it is for us to identify our genetic blackness, if you will, it is also necessary to identify our humanity, you know, and really bridge the gap. But if we bridge the gap of colorism, it'll be a lot easier to bridge the other gap. It'll be closer, less space to fill.
And the colorism stops the conversation because it allows folks to then think that we can't be in the same conversation if we come in different shades. Or that if you're a lighter shade, yes, there's a different experience. Michelle and I probably have very different experiences because Michelle is lighter skinned and that's the presentation of Latinas. When I came here, I'm like, everybody in Panama look like me. I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, I did not understand that people were surprised that I was from Panama and spoke Spanish and I'm of Caribbean descent. And Michelle is my sister and my brother's tone. I got the Jamaican side, you know, we blackity black on that side, you know. But I was stunned when my father came to pick me up my freshman year and Daddy is Michelle and a little lighter. And one of my classmates came and said, there's a man walking on campus looking for you. And I said, Daddy's here. And she goes, I don't think it's your father. By then, I had already understood that she couldn't make the connection with this light-skinned man fathering this dark-skinned woman. That's how deeply rooted that colorism plays itself out, right? And then the language. Liv, you said something about sounding white. I just spoke English. I didn't know there was a version of English that sounded more white, that sounded more this, versus no, I come from an educated space, and this is how we speak. Even recently, and I have my pana in the space, Cristela, Panameñans speak very proper, whatever that means, Spanish, right? And I have done presentations, and they introduce me as Panameña, and I speak in Spanish, and then the comments at the end or the question is, but your Spanish is so good. But did I just not say I was Panamanian? Like, oh my God. Like, oh, but your Spanish is so good. And then when I came to college, I am born and raised in Panama in the American Jim Crow segregated space. So went to American high school. I am the first generation of students integrated into the white territory. So I went to an American high school. So in college, when I came here, my professor would be like, do you need help? I'm like, what part of I speak English don't you understand? Do you understand this assignment? I said, I already read that book. Because their understanding of being immigrant is not supposed to look like this. You're not supposed to be able to speak and engage. So we need to push back on that too. So tell me what your experience, because when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, been there, done that.
You know, I gotta say, my experience growing up in this city has a lot to do with kind of what's on this wall over here, right? I came in here today and I saw this exhibition about the Khmer identity here in Lynn, and you know, I never fit neatly into sort of the black community, but if you're a person who thinks of yourself as a child of immigrants and you come to Lynn, that's a community that's here. There's a lot of people here who are from somewhere, right? And they know where they come from. They know where their parents came from. They're still eating that food at home. And when I was a kid, it was like an international festival, right? You go into your friend's house and you're eating in a different country every day because everybody comes from somewhere. And so even though there wasn't something necessarily you plugged into, we all kind of understood that part of each other, right? We all understood what it meant to have a family history. We all understood what it meant to be from somewhere, even if we weren't from the same places. And so in that way, it was a little bit normal to be a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's a real blessing. That's one of the big blessings for me of having grown up in a place like Lynn. I've never been anywhere else that had the kind of diversity that we have here. And that to me was hugely helpful on the journey of figuring out how I fit, because I had early experience seeing the complexity of all the different people and all the different cultures that we have. But you enter different spaces, and certain spaces are controlled by certain communities, and then you get different reactions. You know what I'm saying? So, for example, I work at an art museum. I work in security. And security in general tends to be dominated by police types, military types, lots of older white males, lots of aggressive energy. And so they don't expect to see me walk in the room. You know, I get into meetings and I get into conferences, and sometimes you can see people really fall off their square trying to collect themselves, which is always great. And then you get going, and then I start speaking, and then you see them have another moment because they're not expecting you to contribute. But like I said, it gives you all these opportunities to open minds, and I just kind of lean into it. I've moved past that point where I'm worried about how I slot into the categories. Now I'm at that point in my life where I hope everybody will get to at some point, where it's whatever you are, that's the definition. Right? If I walk in the room as a black man, however I am that day, well, this is what black people are like today. The mystery solved, right? You don't need to figure out how I fit, right? However I walk in the room and how I am, that's the definition. And the next person can walk in and be something totally different, and look, black people are like that too. And so I look at it that way, and the big thing for me that I think about a lot right now is I think a lot about how this plays out for my children, because this was something that took me a long time to figure out, and at a certain point it occurred to me, my children are going through their own process of integration and becoming, right? They are no longer the child of immigrants like I was. I married a white Jewish woman. They have a whole different set of assumptions that apply when they walk into spaces. Different colors, different skin tones. I have an oldest child who's not mine biologically. People never know we're related, right? Tall, blue-eyed, white kid. They don't know that's me walking in as dad when I walk in the room. And so I focus on trying to create space for them to understand this process of becoming is okay. You're not expected to see and fit the same exact way that I do. But you have to cultivate community, right? You have to continue to find your people, continue to be who you are, kind of thing. So that's just how I'm rocking with it.
Hey, that's a whole lot of rocking. And you said something that I think it's something that we need. You know, I recently said, we, as people of African descent, make the accommodations to make other people comfortable while making ourselves uncomfortable. So I'm sure you're comforted, like you said, you know, I know who I am, I'm gonna move that way, and you know why, but we have been told that we need to make the adjustments to be seen. But no one is making the adjustments to see us. So, you know, we need to push back on that. This queen and I were talking earlier today. She's here presenting, and I'm walking over to her, and she'd be like, why is she walking to me? Dominican, also Lynn, what do you want people to know today?
Oh, Lord. Oh, man. I don't know. I kind of agree with what everybody's kind of said, especially Michelle, also yourself. I honestly don't even know what to say right now. You put me on the spot. But, you know, a lot of these emotions and feelings, that's probably something that we can all relate to. I just turned 40 this past year, and I'm just like, I don't care. I'm at the point where I don't care. So kind of like what he said, this is what an Afro-Dominican looks like. That's what an Afro-Dominican looks like as well, or like anybody else. I have family members who look Asian. We have the same grandmother, same grandfather, nothing different. So I just think it's beautiful to recognize that we all come in different shapes, sizes, colors, and, you know, I just love it.
I just needed everybody, but I need everybody to feel that energy that I felt earlier today. And where's my elder that was here? I was coming to her. But I'm going to Miss Brenda's sister. Sitting today, earlier when we were speaking, we were concerned and we were wanting this conversation to really see the African American story in it and not see the African American story as other to this conversation, but as a beginning to this conversation if we're talking about how we come into this country. Tell me how you are feeling right now.
I am feeling well, overwhelmed, really good and great because I'm learning a whole lot of stuff that I didn't even know as a black person myself. One of the things that signed, I saw Afghanistan from Africa, and I said, what? We go way there? I didn't even much know that. I'm speaking for myself. I didn't know that. And when I saw that, I said, oh my God, how little do I know where all my people are from? They are all over. When you said we have been dropped all over, I was like, wow. And I looked around the room and I was going, I said, wow, what the I've been missing out on. I said, oh my God, I've cheated myself. I'm from the South, but we didn't get this kind of language and education. Wow. I want to be more. I want to be more enlightened. I need my grandkids to be more enlightened because I'm learning something that I didn't know, and I'm 29 years old.
It's true.
But I am, thank you for having it. I would like to be more, get to know more. I would like to get involved because it's interesting, very interesting. And my young man here, I've been seeing you around. I wouldn't have never known you was Honduras. Wouldn't have never known. When I, huh? I've been saying,
You gave me goosebumps.
I've been watching. I said, this good looking. I thought he was a chicken George. And he told me he was, but he said he was from Honduras. I said, whoa, boy, what I've been missing out. But thanks for having me.
Yes, Brenda. Let her speak. Let her speak. So, one of, and I'm gonna, Marvin, where are you? Don't move. Another, he left here as from Liberia and first generation. The same way the misinformation about African Americans perpetrate in our waters is the same sort of disconnect that happens with continental Africans with all other Africans. You know, I have been in spaces, because that's why I say the repair starts with us first. I've been in spaces with Africans from the continent who don't want to be associated with Africans from the diaspora. To the point that they get surprised that we have retained almost more African traditions in certain parts of Latin America and the Caribbean than the continent itself. So who dares to be from the African continent today? We all are. But if you claim a country, who wants to speak on that? Anyone in the crowd? What were you told as an African from the continent when you were coming to the U.S.? Because you know that's why I was standing next to you, right?
Okay, thank you so much. I saw this. I was standing in the store today around 11:30 trying to buy goat meat. So I was flipping cashier was serving me. I was flipping my phone and I saw this. I'm like, what? They're talking about African and I'm not there. I gotta go. So I went home, left my grocery on the table.
Came looking like this.
And came looking like this. So my name is Tish Mukala. I'm from the Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. So I've been in Lynn since I put my foot in this country. I came here. Nobody ever tell me anything about this country. I learned it in geography in where I came from, but I come here, tried for 25 years to integrate myself with Black, Hispanic, everybody. And I had a sense of feeling denied that access. And I told myself, I'm like, I'm not gonna give up. I am gonna continue. That's to say, for what you say, that, you know, the African of the Caribbean and African of other parts of the world know more about African than African themselves. We're talking about being connected. I've been told, oh, you people from Africa, you come here with certain lifestyle. I'm like, oh, okay, now I have to, you know, stay in my corner, stay in my place, because I feel like I don't fit. But that was just a small portion of people that don't really know how connect we are. And finding this platform and other platform I've been with, I am so truly appreciative of this going on right now, okay? So I raised 4 Black men in this country. That generation that come from, you know, the continent, but my kids, like he said, they don't identify themselves like, you know, Black African. They identify themselves as a human being. They don't know all these other things. Although I teach them, you know, the culture, the thing of the motherland, but they really know here, this is their community, this is their place, this is where they study, this is where they grew up, and this is where they work. Okay, so that's one thing. And another thing is that we have this ability to connect. Myself, for example, I have this thing called Women Cradle of Abundance, where when we were raising up, I didn't grow up in a big city, I grew up in a village. We have the cultural village that we was raised on. You grow up, you become a certain age, by your first period, you get married. That's what you know. And then come to find out, oh no, in America, you can do anything you want. You can go to school, you can become anything you want. So I took that opportunity to educate myself, but also to go back and educate the women I left behind that was like me. So we all interconnected. We have this Women Cradle of Abundance where we educate women how to take care of themselves. This outfit is my girls from my sewing school back home that sew it for me as a gift, so to support to them. So we are still all interconnected, and we should be working, building upon this platform. So I know that you know a little bit about Africa, but we know more about Africa, so we can work together, right?
Yep. I'm going to tell you how much I know about Africa. I know so much about Africa that there's an entire African community in Panama that's called the Congo community. Okay? That's how deeply rooted Panama is to its Africanness. The first enslaved Africans in Panama were from West Africa, from the Congos, from Cape Verde, that's a whole nother community we need to talk about. We need to bring you along, because you Africans, you're not Portuguese. You speak Portuguese. Okay? You were colonized by Portuguese, but you're Africans. And so Panama has an entire the palenques, the free areas, free communities were shaped by the Congo communities, and they still have a language at home. We have a dress at home. We have a movement at home. And we're very proud to say somos Congos. Somos Congos. So we need to continue that deepness. So who's sitting tight in their seat that they need to say something? Raise your hand. Like you want to say something, you need to say something. Ah, there she goes.
Hello, my name is Liz. I've been in Lynn for the last 50 years. I came here as a teenager from Memphis, Tennessee. And my grandfather was a sharecropper in Arkansas. He moved from there to Memphis, and we moved from there to here. And my mother, who just turned 90, and she instilled in us that you do the right thing, give the right courtesy. And when you're talking about Africa, I don't know anything about Africa because I never lived there, but I know that my ancestors have lived in Africa. And as far as people saying that we don't know anything, we do. Because like I tell everybody, I have a country. I've had a country since even before I was born. The white man came over there and took my people from their land. So if they're saying we don't have a country, we do have a country. And it may be in Jamaica, Trinidad, but they're all a part of the African descent. And I says, and I've lived in America all my life. And my kids are going through the same thing like a lot of kids are going through. My son, who's a black young man, it could be anybody's son. I mean, even like what you're saying, in the black race, the light people are treated better than the dark skin. I said, but you have to put yourself forward and just say, you know what? It ain't about you, it's about us. And I don't care what they say or how they say it. People talk their different languages, and I have a pet peeve, and I really do. If you're sitting here talking to me, and like we're talking now, and then you turn around and you start talking, I know nothing what you're saying. And I said, I'm a black woman. I don't speak but one language. And I said, I wish I did take another language while I was in school, but I didn't. And I'm proud of anybody that can do both, you know. And I don't knock them for it, but I have a, and I should say, I have a pet peeve, and I want people to know that I'm not a dumb person. I know a lot, and my mother has taught me a lot. And she told me, don't ever let somebody stop you from doing whatever you want to do because this is your life. I said, do what she always told me. I raised you to do better. And I do the same thing with my children. I raised you to do better, and I hope you will do better. I said, but this Lynn is not a black community city. I'm sorry to tell you that because they don't really care about the black people in this city. If you think they do, they don't. They don't. Because I've been here since a teenager, and I've seen a lot of things come through here. Like this place right here, it should have us in here. How many of us is in this place right here today? None of us. And I've lived in Lynn for over 50 years. And this is the first time I've been in this building. The first time. I said, for me to come in here and see this here, I'm like, we've been here for a long time. And nobody's showing us. They got us still in the back door, coming in through the back door, trying to come through the front. And that's not right. That's not right.
I think you touched on the language switch that can create a level of isolation, and because when I see someone that's speaking in Spanish, I want to jump in, right? And then you want to, but you don't do it in a disrespectful way. But I've been on the receiving end of what you're on. I go in to Latino space all excited, and they don't even speak to me in the Spanish that I'm speaking to them in. No. I'm not even talking about the dialogue. I'd be like speaking to someone in Spanish and they're still speaking to me in English. Like, because they are still trying to figure out how I'm speaking Spanish to them and I'm black. You know what the funny part about some of those moments are? Is that the person challenging me in that moment is blacker than me. And I can see them, and they can't see me. It is the most boggling thing of experiences to stand before someone who cannot get past the color of your skin to receive you. Not even through language. Not even through language. So, people think, okay, I'm Panamanian, check. Born in Latin America, check. Speak Spanish, check. None of that check has helped me. It has not made my journey any easier to be able to check off any of those boxes. Because at the end of the day, the most important box that people don't want to move past is this. If they can't move past this, then I don't get an opportunity to check off any other box, right? So I want to get one more person in our audience. Anyone else want? You've been shaking your head. So, anything to share? And then I'm going back to the panel.
Well, I'm Elaine. I am Brazilian.
The largest population of people of African descent after Nigeria.
Oh, yeah, I'm feeling very representative here. As per she says, we are not black, but we're not white. So we're halfway point. Most of the Brazilians that live here in Massachusetts, they look totally different than I look. So then I have the same thing that you say, even when I speak to them in Portuguese, they don't understand. Why are you speaking Portuguese? You're not Cape Verde. Oh, you must be Cape Verdean, because they also speak Portuguese and a little bit different. And also the way that the lady from Congo, sorry, don't remember the name, mentioned that she's been trying to fit. I tried to fit on my Brazilian community, and I never could. I moved to Lynn 2 years ago, and I feel very welcomed here. This is the second year that I come to this. And I really feel that I belong now.
What we're hearing, and I want to go back to the panel, what we're hearing is it's powerful to be seen. And we all want to be seen. At the end of the day, you want your humanity to be seen, because when you get not seen just by your race, that means you're not being seen in your human light. If you can't get past the color of my skin, then you can't see my humanity. So if there's anything that we need to walk away with today, is that the race conversation is not separate from the human conversation. When we heard Ms. Brenda talk about being in Lynn for so many years and there's not an African American story being taught or told, that is because that's not being seen. Everyone here on this panel has talked about the struggle of being seen. So today we walk out with saying, I see you, I understand you. One of the things that my mentor, Clara Richards, taught me very early on in this work is when we were dragged and chained on those ships, they put us on those ships in families, but we were not dropped off in our family. The father was dropped off in Santo Domingo, the mother was in Brazil, the child was in Congo, the sister was in Honduras, the brother was in Liberia. Liberia came sort of shaped after, but we weren't dropped off in our whole unit. Exactly. So if you understand that, at least I understand that, my point of entry is you and I could be sisters. 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 You and I are sisters. Because we were dropped off everywhere. So I receive every person in that. then challenge happens, right? How do we move past when that disconnect plays itself out? But today is a beginning for Lynn, because we're saying no mas. Let's connect, let's touch, let's reach, let's understand, let's tell new stories, let's share new history. For us to then, to next week, when this queen sees Lenny, she'll be like, hey! She'll be like, hey, I met you, right? So we ain't strangers no more, right? We ain't strangers no more. The first time Michelle and I met through our dear friend Anna, we were hanging out together and we were dancing, and Adriana and all of us. And this is how we don't realize how connected we are. And I was like, I love this song, Do Do. And she's like, I have that on my playlist. I said, we just literally was dancing. We forgot everybody that was around and we were dancing. Because we connected, a Dominican and a Panamanian connected in that beat. We didn't understand none that was being said because it was in French. But we knew the beat. But I like the way he said it, though. Right, and we danced. And everybody loves that little video we did. Be like, do, do, say about it, do, do. I don't know what he said, what? But we were dancing. Because ain't nothing that drum beat. That drum beat. So, what do you want to leave with? The message you want to leave for today, and what are you leaving with today?
Before I answer that, I just want to say, and I think I missed this. And when I was asked to speak, to be one of the speakers for today, I expected, and Michelle, I know you say we identify ourselves as human. Yes, we are. But I expected to see more of the black race here. And when I walked in and saw all the exhibits and the opening ceremony, I felt a little out of place because it was all geared to other countries, other folks. And I'm here, and we're here, and you are here. So what I would like for us to leave with today is that we are all one, just from different places. But we can come together at the table and have the same meal, eat and enjoy, get to know one another. Not so much about where we come, but know you, know me as a person. And then we can build on that. Because we can't change what has happened in the past, but we can take the past and build on it for the future. Lev, like you said, for your kids. You're worried about what your kids and how they're going to handle what's going on today. We can build upon that. We can start leaving a legacy like our forefathers, our ancestors did for us. And someone came along and took the torch and carried it. So now it's falling upon us. But if we have this disconnect with the races and where we are from, we can't do that. We can't leave it. We got to make it better. Got to make it better so when people see each other, they don't see the color of their skin. They see the person, the human being. Oh, sorry.
You know, before Lenny goes, Ms. Brenda, thank you.
And I do have to leave. I have another, but
thank you for bringing and sharing that wisdom, because we don't get to hear that very often. We were gifted something today.
The only thing I want to say is just let's abolish the way of the conqueror, which is divide and conquer. That's the reason why a lot of things are happening among us. They taught us the wrong way. So it's just unite. That's pretty much it.
I think that if there was one thing I want to take from this, or have people take from this, it's do the work to understand your own personal history, right? Not what is being sold to you during Black History Month, not what is being sold to you on social media, not what is the expectation. Do the work to understand where you, your family, you as a person come from, so you can stand on your power. Your power comes from your story like that. Find your own center. Then when you do that, you can go into the community and make it what you want to be, okay? You find your own power, then you create the community. That's what we need to do. All the world is shifting around us. We need that vision, we need that power. Understand your own story, stand on that power, then go in the world and create.
Can I go off mic? Am I on the mic for a reason?
Yeah, because they need to hear it.
Oh, I was going to speak loudly.
Just hold it further away and speak loud.
Basically, what I would like everybody to take away with them today is that love is love and hate is hate. We do have to have so many conversations, but we're running out of time. I mean, that's the bottom line fact. We're running out of time. The more time we spend figuring out why your hair is curly, looking that light, and who your mother is and where you come from, and asking my child who his mother is, why his hair is so curly yet so light and his skin so pale. Those conversations happening, it's taken from the conversations that really need to happen. There's a saying that's kind of popular these days, skin folk ain't always kinfolk. If we abolish the double standard and realize that what is within is really what matters, because evil doesn't have a color. Meanness, bullies don't have a color. Abuse doesn't have a color. So yes, conversations need to happen, gaps need to be bridged, but love is love and hate is hate. And as long as that double standard exists, we're always going to be at a division. You know, it doesn't matter how much black you have in you or how much white you don't to make you black. As long as that continues being the conversation, I don't care what shade or how many shades of melanin you have within you. Are you a good person or are you a bad person? Take that with you today. Because when I call you my sister, I'm not looking at you because of what you look like. You don't have to have one of these in your hair for me to call you a sister. If I call you a sister, you could be blonde, you could be an albino for all I care. I'm going to give you the same amount of love, because that's where we need to be. That's where yes, I need to recognize where I come from, who I come from, what my history is, how my ancestors walked. Yes. But I'm here now. And like Lev said, I have children, I have grandbabies, baby. I have grandbabies. And I need to make it better for them. And for me to make it better for them, the conversation has to be about love, not color. That's my opinion. And that's what I'd like y'all to take away with you today.
So I want to can we give an applause for our panelists? Thank you for speaking truth, for bringing truth, for landing, for grounding us. Can we give applause for all of us for stepping into the conversation? And for many, they may think this is the norm. For someone who's been in this game for the almost 30 years that she's been doing this work in this country, this is not the norm. you have taken a major step here in Lynn. You've taken a major step in Lynn, and this is just the beginning. I want to thank Adriana, Marvin, and Michael for tapping me into to join them in this conversation in Lynn. For those who may not have shared but want to share any kind of thoughts, we have some paper around, right? The paperboard, and some, they'll put some magic markers and stuff, and we can also put it outside too. So, yep, you can write so that we can collect your thoughts if you didn't feel that you wanted to share it out loud, but we can collect your thoughts. And then Adriana has a pad that she can take the information if you want to continue into the conversation. I think this is an opportunity for Lynn to build the base that will go out and spread this information and spread this truth. And the same way we started with an elder, I'm seeing an elder over here, so I am going to give and ask permission from this elder to close this out and to leave us with a few words.
Well, let me tell you, I have come to this meeting and I'm leaving well informed and happy that I came. So let us continue to think of each other and be friendly, love each other, accept each other for what we have, what we are, knowing who we are and what we are and where we're headed. So with this, let me say so long, and I wish everyone a happy and a wonderful day.